In this session, we will be learning about indirect function in Excel. Now, what is indirect function in Excel? So the name itself the name itself conveys that it is something like a reference function, right? So it refers to a cell which is present in a particular sheet or the current sheet, or it refers to a particular range in the current sheet, or it can also refer to an entire workbook in a current window. Right, so you can stay here on the sheet number 1 and you can refer something which is present on the sheet number 10 or 11. You can stay in this current workbook and refer to something which is around in a different workbook altogether. So that's exactly how the indirect function in Excel works. Okay, so I guess the definition was a little difficult to get. Let me show you a simple demo here so that it becomes a little easier for you. So currently I'm in the cell number A2, right? Now here I will implement the indirect function. Press tab to select it, and now I'll refer to the cell C2 and let's enter, and there you go. Let me properly close the window, it's there. So let me implement the indirect function here. So equals to indirect and press tab to select. Now I'll be selecting the cell C2, and inside C2 we have E2 address. Now the formula is fine. I have implemented the indirect function and selected the cell E2, and now if I press enter, see the magic. There you go. So in the cell E2 we have the text hello world. So when I use the indirect function to refer, which is something in C2, it is indirectly referring to another cell address that is E2, which has the text hello world. Now this one was a little pretty simpler. Now let's check some complicated ones. And we'll move to sheet number 1. Here we have some student names and their marks on the individual subjects, that is math, science, English, computer science. And here you can see I'm selecting the student names, and accordingly I'm getting their average score and the total marks obtained, right? Seems interesting. How did I do this? So this is done exactly using the indirect function. So let's do it again. So this is how you do it. Now here I will be using, okay, before we get into this, we need to do some fundamentals before we do it, right? So the fundamentals are, you need to name your individual columns. So here I have Brian and his marks. So I'll select entire marks of Brian, ranging from B2 to B4. Right click, and here you can see define name. And I'll be naming it as Brian. It's already named. We might get an error. So it's already named. Okay, let's add another one. Maybe Jennifer. Let's cancel this. So let's add Jenny. And her marks will be 96, 87. I'm selecting some random numbers here. So 87. So we have the new column here. Now we need to name this column, define a name, and it's Jenny. So Excel has automatically selected the name for this column. So let's press OK. Now we have our columns ready. Now here if you see the drop down, we have Amy, Banna, Brian, Brock, Emily, Jenny, John, everyone over here, right? So the columns are named, the individual columns are named. So now the student name. So here you can use some simple trick called data validation here. Select the data option in the toolbar, navigate to data tools. Here select data validation, and in this, instead of any value, select list, and here give the source as this particular set. Press OK so that you get the drop down menu over here. You can also type the individual names again. When you type the individual names, you might go wrong with the case or spelling, right? So it's better always to use this kind of list options, which will make things easier for you. Now getting into the average calculation. So here the average will be equals to average. Press tab to select. Now the indirect function. Indirect of the cell address, and close the bracket. First you might get an error because currently it is empty. So select some name and you'll get your average score. Now same thing applies to total. You can press the sum function, select the sum function, and type in the indirect function, and the cell B11, close the brackets, and press enter. So that's how you do it. So that's how you can implement indirect function in Excel. So with that, we have come to an end of this session on indirect function in Excel. Hope the session was interesting and informative. If you have any queries regarding any of the topics covered in this session, then please feel free to let us know in the comment section below, and our team of experts will be more than happy to resolve all your queries at the earliest.